We have a right to privacy. We have a right to not be under state surveillance. The government has no right to be gathering information about me. When I look at a bill, does this allow the government to get information about everybody, including the 99.99% of Canadians who are not criminals? We have a right to privacy. We have a right to not be under state surveillance. The government has no right to be gathering information about me. What are the principles here that are at stake, right? Because that's the lens through which we should be looking at the legislation. So traditionally, we have a tradition of governments respecting our privacy. So the government cannot go into your, let's say 50 years ago, pre-internet, the government can't just go into your home and set up a little camera or a recording device because you have a right to privacy. And that was part of our culture. Pre-charter, we didn't have all these rights spelled out, but there's this understanding that everybody accepted, the police accepted it. It was part of our culture. The politicians understood it, the courts, the judges, the lawyers, everybody understood it. We have a right to privacy. We have a right to not be under state surveillance. Now, at the same time, sometimes police need special powers. If John or Rob or Nico is, running a child prostitution ring or producing child pornography, or you're part of a terrorist gang and you're plotting to blow up the parliament buildings, okay? So if they have reasonable and probable grounds to suspect somebody has committed a crime or is in the process, or strong grounds to believe they will commit a crime, they have to go to court and they get a warrant. And so there can be police surveillance, and they could install a camera in your home. Maybe you're on holidays and they break in there and they set up cameras and they leave again, like the Stasi did in East Germany and so many regimes. And that's okay. So we have a balance on the starting point is we all have a right to privacy. The government has no right to be gathering information about me. That's the starting point. Then we also have an allowance for law enforcement where you have to go to court to get a warrant. The warrant allows you to get information on one person or maybe two or three people that are part of a gang. It's not a justification to get information about everybody, right? That's the whole point, is that we can violate the privacy rights for one individual or for a group of individuals who are a criminal gang, a criminal organization doing child pornography, child prostitution, terrorism, what have you, fraud, theft. So this is the kind of the starting point, okay? So now with that in place, when I look at a bill, I say, does this allow the government to get information about everybody, including the 99.99% of people who are not committing a crime, who are not suspected of committing a crime? That's the lens. So when you look at it through that lens, we have problems with this because it makes it very easy for government to get information on the 99.99% of Canadians who are not committing any crimes. That's what I would advocate for as a principle. If you want to look at the legislation government's coming up with, the question is, will this law give the government information about the 99.99% of Canadians who are not criminals?
Okay,
That's very fair, because
that's a great
part you're talking about,
litmus test. Yeah,
but it's bang on, because if you look, for the people that are interested in looking at the bill itself, if you go to page 38, or if you're looking at a PDF, it's the page 46 under core providers obligations. I believe that this is the part that you are referring to, where the governor in council may make regulations respecting the obligations of core providers, including regulation respecting the development, implementation, assessment, testing, and maintenance of operational and technical capabilities, including capabilities related to extracting and organizing information that is authorized to be accessed and providing access to such information to authorized persons. And this goes the installation, use, operation, management, assessment, testing, maintenance of any device, equipment, or other things that may enable an authorized person to access information. Notice to be given by the minister or other persons, including with respect to any capabilities referred to into paragraph A, any device, equipment, of other things referred in this paragraph. And where it's problematic, and I don't know if you saw into this, John, but the retention of categories of metadata, including transmission data as defined in section 487.011 of the Criminal Code. That metadata is extremely dangerous if the average person does not know what that is. So basically, it's stipulating that the government has the power to force core providers, as I said, those are the telecommunication providers in Canada, the Bell, the Telus, the Rogers, the Videotron of this world, to install equipment that would be able to basically what we call in the world, in the IT world, sniff through every single piece of information that is going through their network, similar to what the NSA has been doing since the 2001 attacks on the buildings in New York. The Patriot Act, what they've been doing since the Patriot Act, they're basically saying that they want to implement that same type of technology to be available to them.
Is that how you read that, John? Or are there safeguards on that? Or what's going on there?
These are the building blocks where, and Bill C8 ties in with that as well, that it gives power to the cabinet to pick the companies. They get to decide who. There are not very clear criteria. So they can just name any company they want. And they say, you're going to do this and this and this. You're going to reorganize your software. C8 gives the federal cabinet extensive control over an unknown number of companies. That the list can be as long as they want to make it, to get everything set up. The scary thing about the C8 and now the C22 is that if they are passed into law in their current form, nobody will notice the day after. There won't be any changes, right? It's insidious. If there's a bill where there's an immediate impact, if Parliament passes a bill that says anybody that's wearing a yellow T-shirt is going to get arrested and thrown in prison and get your head chopped off, well, there'd be protests. People say, what is this? We got this law that it's a crime to wear a yellow T-shirt and you're going to be executed, something like that, right? People are going to notice and they're going to speak up and they're going to be upset. But here, C22 and C8, the day after they're proclaimed in force, nothing will happen. But the weeks and the months and the years after, they will start using this and they'll say, well, you're an electronic service provider. We want you to tell us about, how is your software set up and how are you maintaining your records? Tell us that. And then we're going to tell you how to change your software to set it up really nicely so that in the future, if we want to get all this data on all Canadians, then we can just get it quickly and easily. So it's a departure from that principle that law enforcement should, and I support law enforcement prosecuting, fighting crime, right? I support that 100%. And the way to do that is you give the law enforcement, they have to go to court to get a warrant, to get information about an individual or individuals, plural, and it's limited to that. But the law enforcement does not get this broad power to read everybody's emails and to go to, TELUS, Rogers, Bell, Videotron, and just say, give us all of this data on all Canadians. Yeah. That's the scary part.
It's basically the data is going to be available for them to give me the data and I will decide what to do with it later. If I need a warrant,
trust me, because I'm the government, and I would never. I'm the government. I'm good. I would never harm your rights or freedoms. I would never freeze your bank account. I would never unleash violence on peaceful protesters. I would never have millions of cell phones that were listened to during the lockdowns. It's just like, this is the scary part. The worst thing is, okay, if somebody's ignorant of history, you can persuade them of anything. And we've been gradually removing history from the school curriculum for the last 50 years. The more recent graduates, unless they're studying history on purpose, they're taking it as an elective, or they're studying at university. But you've got all these people don't have a clue. They don't know that in the 20th century, more people were murdered by their own government in political genocides than the number of soldiers killed in the battlefield. They don't know that. All they think of, oh, government's good, government's good, government's good. Well, yes, government can be good, but there's a dark side to it. It's a double-edged sword, and people don't understand that. They only understand the good things the government can do, and government can do good things. That's all they understand. And it's like, let the government have all this data, because they'll never hurt us.
And it's funny, John, because what you said, it's not just in the 20th century when it comes to the army. In the 20th century, let's be honest, communism has killed more people. So their government using communism have killed more citizens than all war combined have killed of men. This is the reality. Throughout history, the 20th century's communist movement has killed more people than every single war prior to now. It's insane. It's absolutely insane when you look at the numbers.
Yeah.
Well, I forget who it was that said, but one, the death of one man is a tragedy.
I think
the death of 4 or 5 million is a statistic. And it seems something weird about human nature, but yeah, we seem to be, more concerned with the murder of one person, which is good. We should be concerned about that. But the statistics are so frightening. Mao Zedong in China, Stalin in the Soviet Union, Hitler in Germany and Nazi-occupied Europe, Pol Pot in Cambodia, and even somebody like Castro in Cuba. Yeah. Not a mass genocide, but how many thousands of people have been murdered by the communist regime in Cuba in the last 50 plus years?
Sure. Yeah. It's funny. It was actually Stalin that said that quote, I believe, the statistic one. But it is something about the human psyche. When a crime gets so big, we almost can't comprehend it, and we just file it under the statistics instead of thinking of that's 1 million actual lives, right? 1 million families torn apart.
It's too big to understand. It's such a great number that you cannot comprehend what it actually means.
Yeah, we can all understand four murders, right?
Yeah,
but 1 million murders, it's hard to grasp.
One of the things too that's worth mentioning is in that portion of the bill C-22, before we get to the other portion you were talking about, is that one of the problems is that it opens what we call backdoors. Because remember, when we had you on the show to do a deep dive on Bill C-8, that's something I had identified as someone that comes from the telecommunication world. They were asking core providers, the internet providers, for access to their data center. And I don't know if you remember, but that's what I said. I'm like, they're not asking for any reasons. I remember I used to deal with them. The RCMP has called our office many times to get, hey, we suspect this guy at this IP address is trafficking child pornography. Can you but there was a process there was a massive process between them and us. We needed to release that information to them because they didn't have access to our network. But now through Bill C-8, the government has started asking access to their data centers. The only reason they would want to do that is either to install equipment that can interfere, we call it middleman, right? You install equipment that is in between two pieces of software or hardware that handles a lot of traffic so that you can sniff it, you can look at what's going through it, or they want to be able to have access to it no matter when they need it in order to do something, whatever that might be in the future. But I had told you this was the opening door to installing AI everywhere. And what do you think is the best sniffer out there now is AI. It's so powerful that it can sniff through. once you have that traffic, sending an AI agent on that traffic and say, Nico Lagan, enter, give me all the information and make sense of it, organize it in a way that a human being could understand it, enter.
Oh yeah,
It's going to do it
that's
for
what it's
you.
going to be used for sure.
But it opens a massive backdoor too, right? Like security breaches. I just got hacked over the weekend. My YouTube got hacked and I lost it for a few days. YouTube was able to bring it back. But imagine if people are able to do that to just me, because I probably pissed them off. So they hacked me. But imagine what they're going to do when all that information that is saved, just like the NSA, is accessible online. What do you think they're going to do? Hackers throughout the world are going to try to get access to it because they're backdoors. And one thing I know from dealing with the government for almost 20 years on the technology side, they're fucking incompetent. Those guys do not know how to build anything properly. So those backdoors are going to be there and they're going to be used.
Did you find in your experience that if the police came knocking at your company's door saying that we have you have probable grounds that let's say, Mark Tremblay, whatever, is trafficking child pornography, I'm assuming your company would be keen to help the police because they're only asking for one name. They're not saying, tell us all about your every customer and your customers' habits and whereabouts and what they like to see, right? But if they're asking about one person, I'm assuming that most companies would want to comply. And further, if they didn't, it wouldn't be hard to get a court order to say to the company, you shall turn over information about Mark Tremblay to the police.
Yes.
But
actually, there's a comment here that came in a few minutes ago, John, that kind of is related to what you're talking about here now. I'll bring it up and just run it by you. Give me your thoughts on it. Claire says, I ran an internet company from 1997 to 2004. If the police showed up asking for info on our clients by the warrant, they were told to come get one when they had it. They rarely came back, though. And, I wonder, I'd be very curious to know how common that's the case, right? Because it makes you wonder, if it was really important, you'd think they would come back, right? How much of this is just a fishing expedition?
What was your experience, Nico, with when police would come to the company that you worked for and they wanted individual like information about one person? Was your company
we were pretty
hard
cooperative,
to get to?
But there was only one manager because it's not like those requests happened 100 times a day, right? They were very rare. And when they did happen, they had to be confidential because that guy was not proven guilty. And in Canada, we're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. So there was one single manager that handled those requests because, again, they were rare. They had to be done under secrecy. It's not like they walked in our network operations center, just like you see in the movies. There's screens everywhere and a bunch of nerds just looking at traffic, at what's happening. Those things really exist. They're not just in movies. But they didn't show up there. They had a meeting with a very specific guy. They went in a place where we couldn't hear what they had to say because they're talking about something, a real person's lives here. But never would we have considered installing equipment or setting up our network in a way where our traffic could be sniffed by the government. On the contrary, this is something we made very sure that did not happen, because if the government can listen, that means anybody can listen. It's a massive backdoor that you're opening up to the internet. And funny enough, I remember when Cisco, one of the biggest supplier of telecommunication equipment in the world, if not the biggest one, installed the Chinese firewall that's been used by the Communist Party to block traffic. Because the government is preventing Chinese are not able to access the internet per se, right? They're able to access certain part of the internet, but it is prevented by a massive amount of firewalls that prevent the traffic from going out, and only approved traffic can go out to specific locations. I remember when this was a big deal and Cisco was made a deal with China in order to install this. And it was an outrage. Us here in the West, we're like, what the hell is going on? Government should never have that power. We're talking 20 years ago. Now our government is trying to pass bills to duplicate what the Chinese have done giving them the exact same power, and we need to trust them that they're not going to use it? Really? Really? Sir, cool story. History proves that it's not quite that simple.